Okay. The last thing I want to talk about is just the way these rosters were built, right? And do a bit more of a deep dive into how this came to fruition. So Miami, going to their roster, Miami has Isaiah Wong, who is just like a 4-year guy there, if I remember correctly, right? Like he's been there forever, and he was the guy that you built around. Nigel Pack, transfer this year. Big hoopla about John Ruiz's Life Wallet Company giving him $400,000 a year. Norchad Omier, we don't know how much Norchad got. I would imagine it's probably somewhat similar to what Nigel Pack got. Transfer from Arkansas State, first-year transfer. Jordan Miller started his career at George Mason, second-year transfer, was able to play automatically. Fifth-year senior. Wooga Poplar was a recruit at Miami. Bensley Joseph, recruit at Miami. So essentially what you look at here, 3 transfers in the starting lineup, 2 of them in this firm NIL era. Miami did great. They evaluated well. They picked at the top of the heap, right? Like I would imagine that, I had Nigel Pack and Norchad Omier probably his top 10 transfers last year, but they ran the scheme that would work for them around them. Let's go to Connecticut now. Connecticut, they recruit Adama Sanogo, Jordan Hawkins, Andre Jackson. That is their core coming into this year. When they talked about it last offseason, the idea was we have this core of 3 guys. We just need to build around them, and we think we can be successful and be a contender. So what do? They bring in Donovan Clingan as a recruit. Donovan Clingan, just really interesting story. Very, 7'2", kind of ballooned up, if I remember correctly, during COVID, and wasn't quite as highly thought of later in his career as he was potentially earlier in his career as a recruit. Connecticut staff stuck with it. Clingan apparently really bought in and got his frame back in order, set himself up for success. That kid's going to be a first round pick at some point. Yeah. I don't think it'll be this year, but could be this year. Joey Calcaterra, Hassan Diarra, Naheem Aline, all transfers this season, all guys that came in to play a role off the bench, basically. Aline as a part-time starter. Tristan Newton obviously is the big transfer here. Yeah. They bring him in. Again, another guy that I had as a top 10 transfer last season. Runs the point, struggles a little bit early on, but really settles in, becomes a terrific 37% three-point shooter, a little bit turnover prone, but a terrific passer, playmaker, etc. Right? So 4 transfers around a core of dudes that you recruited. Then we go to San Diego State. Matt Bradley is a former transfer from Cal. Darion Trammell is a transfer this season from Seattle. I believe that Keishad Johnson and is Micah Parrish a transfer? Yeah, he is. He went from Oakland last year to this year. Keishad Johnson, I believe, has been there the whole time. So Jaden Ledee, multi-stop transfer, started at Ohio State, went to TCU, now at San Diego State. Nathan Mensah has been there for 5 years, if I remember correctly. Adam Seiko, I believe, has been there for 5 years. Agweka Rop, I believe, has also been there for quite a bit of time. I don't know how many years necessarily with him. But you're looking at another situation where Matt Bradley, Darion Trammell, Micah Parrish, they bring in 3 of their starters in the transfer portal. Jaden Ledee, 4th transfer that they bring in. Portal is super important here. But Lamont Butler, Keishad Johnson, Nathan Mensah, the core of their identity is defense. Those are their 3 best defenders. You can build around that. And they chose to build around it with high-level scorers. Florida Atlantic is almost the outlier here in terms of they just fucking evaluated really well on the recruiting circuit. All these dudes basically are just guys that Dusty May knew were good outside of Golden, who started his career at Texas Tech. But Nick Boyd was Florida Atlantic through and through. Brian Greenlee, I think, started his career at Minnesota, but he's been at Florida Atlantic for 3 years now. I think he didn't have to sit out. I thought he might have had to sit out as a transfer, but I'm looking now. Michael Forrest was, I think, Dusty May's first recruit. John L. Davis, recruit out of Gary, Indiana. Elijah Martin, I think, is from Mississippi or something like that. Look, they filled it out in the portal. They went out and they got Gaffney and, obviously Golden transferred in. So they made smart bets in the portal, but Dusty May is just like ridiculous evaluator. This staff did a great job evaluating dudes that are just way under the radar. So they're the outlier here. The way that you win in college basketball right now is you get a core group of guys. And I think you can look across the country. This isn't just this team, but you recruit a core group of guys that are high upside guys that you probably can't get in the portal. Like you can get Tristan Newton, who can be a top 10 transfer in the country for me, who can be your fourth or fifth best player on a great team, but you can't get the Jordan Hawkins. You can't get the Isaiah Wong in all likelihood. You need the centerpieces first, and then you build around those guys with like third, fourth, and fifth best players.
Yeah, and beyond that, I think coaches and staffs who evaluate for what they look for in players and in teams, right? San Diego State's shared characteristic, they all love to defend, and they all know that they're expected to defend. Florida Atlantic's shared characteristic, with the exception of Golden, they all shoot the ball, and they're all really good in that regard. So find out what your identity is going to be there, and don't worry about the star ratings with recruits and any of these guys. If you know and you evaluate well and believe he's going to be a stud and the exact type of player and person that you can build around, go out there and do it.